with any kind of official bid. The belief remains that 70 million plus 10 stands as a realistic chance of getting the deal done, despite the £100 million price tag. But Chelsea are going to start pushing hard for this deal now. Now that they've kind of got rid of so much players that are surplus the requirements to them, how confident are you, Don, that you'll land Caicedo, and how transformative do you think he'll be for Chelsea going into next season?
Yeah, no, I'm quite confident that we're going to land him, Terry. We bidded for him in January before we actually decided to just move on to Caicedo, not Caicedo, Enzo, and focus on him. So we actually bidded for him before Arsenal did in January. And yeah, as of May, Fabrizio has been mentioning his name linked to Chelsea. Like, we're going to attack the situation. He's our main target. You know, a lot of the Chelsea accounts have been talking about Caicedo as being at the top of our list in midfield. And when it comes to just transforming our midfield, I can think of so many games last season. You know, when we lost to Spurs, we had Oliver Skip just bossing that midfield. When we lost to Southampton at home, Lavia just bossing that midfield because we had no CDM. At the Emirates, Odegaard's both of his goals, again, no one there in that midfield, to hold that position. So he's definitely going to transform our midfield because it's going to allow Enzo to push up a little bit further up, hopefully be a little bit more creative, get more assists, get more goals. And again, just be a bit of a destroyer, give us a little bit of comfort as well in front of our back four. Because I feel like you haven't seen the best of players like Fofana because we've had no protection in front of him. Do you know what I mean? If you put, for example, let's just say Gabriel in our defense with no CDM in front of him, he's going to look a lot worse than what he is as a player because he is a good player, but you need that protection in front of him. So this is where we're going now. I think Caicedo is definitely going to, take us up a level because we've been missing that position, missing a player in that position for so long. The last destroyer that we had was Matic. And then after that, we brought in Jorginho, who is a defensive midfielder, good at tackling, but he isn't the greatest destroyer. Physically, he's not it. We just haven't had that guy in midfield, that dog in midfield. So Caicedo brings a bit of that. And I'm quite happy as well because he obviously speaks Spanish. Enzo doesn't speak English fluently. So that's really important for them to communicate. That's one thing that people forget about football. You need to communicate, right? So I think it would be good for us because they're actually both Spanish speakers as well. So yeah, this guy will definitely elevate us to the next level and bring something into our midfield that we've been missing for so long. Yeah, we need to get this one done. I think we'll get it done. I'm quite confident, to be fair.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal piece of business. Alex Goldberg has tweeted an Ecuadorian flag, is what LJ Brown has said here. And look, it is progressing, and it's progressing very, very quickly indeed. Dan Waters here with a very big super chat says, rivals helping us trim our squad when they said we would struggle to sell. Again, that's why I do say this to people. I've been trying to give advice to the NVC for a while now. Learn when to banter and when not to. Because that's why I didn't get involved in it, because there's always a chance we might buy some of the talent in that pool. It looks really silly now. 125 million for Havertz and Mount, 10-ish outgoings, and Nkunku in for 50 million, Jackson 30, first feeder club bought, Caicedo incoming, not done yet. Chelsea are cooking. And I want to kind of go to Igal with that because they're about to sign one of the best midfield players in the young midfield players in the Premier League in Europe. They've got rid of nearly all the deadwood that people doubted. They've got all the bankers and the businessmen out of the boardroom and letting the football people make the decision. Chelsea really look like they're moving back in the right direction to many people. What's your view, firstly, on the Caicedo signing and the general state of Chelsea right now?
Caicedo signing, honestly, I'm surprised that nobody else is really pushing for Caicedo to the level that Chelsea are. Like Arsenal, of course, we put all our focus on Declan Rice and Kai Havertz, and we kind of seem to have gone away from the Caicedo thing. And Manchester United, you guys push heavy for Mason Mount. Nobody else is really going in for Caicedo at this moment in time, and I feel like Chelsea are the most likely destination. So that's why they're getting a free hit at him. And you know what? Brighton they're going to have to probably pay Brighton 70 to 80 million to get him over the line. If they pay more than 90, I'll be surprised. But yeah, Caicedo's a quality player and they're getting a quality midfielder. I'm not going to downplay him. He's a quality player, and anyone who gets him, they're getting a quality player. But Chelsea in a whole, let's be honest, they've done well in some parts and they still have a lot of work in other parts. We can praise them for their sales, But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that some of the players that they're selling, they bought last week for like 400 million. So let's be realistic here. They're doing well getting rid of some of these guys off their wage bill. That's what it is, not really the incoming cash that they're getting, because the main thing is to try to get them off the wage bill and bring in players that can with better wages, because that's the main thing that they've been trying to do, not only just sell the players. Because 200 million, if you look at it, if you take those transfer kitties for some of those players, just recently they probably spent 200 million on some of those guys. So I'm not going to give you too much praise. I'm not going to give you too much praise on the sales, but getting rid of the players, trimming your fat, and actually getting income in is great. Now, this is where the real issue lies. Your squad is still thin. And I know you're saying you're not in Europe. That's the first thing you're going to say. But the level of quality you have in your team has diminished so much. And I still need to see you guys go and bring in a midfielder, maybe another midfielder, a goalkeeper, a striker. And I just don't know. And I don't know enough about these young players that you've brought in and if they can cut the mustard at the Premier League level yet. Like Jackson, who is he? I've never seen him play. I don't know him, so I can't talk about him. But really and truly, if I see him versus Van Dijk, what I'm expecting Liverpool to bash him up. I don't think he's going to be starting up front for you guys. Your goalkeeper right now, Kepa. Nobody rates Kepa. Let's be honest. He did decent for FPL teams, but that's it. He's not a real good goalkeeper, right? And then when it comes to your midfield on paper looks great, but you got rid of Kovacic, Kante, Jorginho, all of these guys over the last year. You have no experience in your midfield. What are you going to do to manage games? You actually have gone backwards as a club to try to go forwards in the future. I get it. I get it in the long term, but right now in the short term, it's going to be a lot of growing pains. And also, you have a new manager. We don't even know how you're going to play. So there's just so much work to be done. I can't really rate Chelsea yet. I still need to see more from them.
I get what you're saying, Nigel, but for you to say that we've gone backwards, I'm guessing you're referring to the quality that we've brought in is the biggest. I haven't heard BS like that in a long time, man. Like you can't tell me bringing in Enzo and bringing in Caicedo and bringing in Cuckoo into our midfield is going backwards. When
you've named three players.
Yeah, these are the players that are going to be starting our midfield. Let's say we bring Caicedo in and Enzo's already there. It's a double pivot of those two. You've got Nkuku, who again can create and is a good finisher, very good on the ball, right? I don't understand how we can downgrade that midfield because we've had Kova, who again, end product hasn't been great, inconsistent, injury prone as well. Right time for him to move on. Jorginho, not the right CDM profile for us. Mason Mount hasn't been performing for a while for us as well. So I don't see how you can say we've gone backwards in that.
This
in the
is how
midfield.
you've gone backwards.
We've actually improved our quality in midfield.
Guess what? You can improve your quality by bringing in crown jewels, but if the supporting cast have dropped off, you've gone worse.
Yeah,
so
but
your supporting cast, your overall squad was so good that at times people were saying, look at our bench, look at our team, look at who we can bring off the squad. You guys, even though you might not rate some of these players, over time they've let you down. But let's just take ourselves back to after you won the Champions League. People were looking at 2-11s that were quality to start in majority of teams. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of the young players you picked up, they can be good maybe in the future. But at this moment in time, who's to say they even are players that even get into another top 6 team?
So you're telling me Enzo doesn't start for any other top
I'm not talking about Enzo. Stop going back to the crown jewels. There are crown jewels in your team, like Enzo, like Nkunku, like some of these guys that you have, Fofana, that you have a spine of players that some people rate. But let's be honest, you still have a lot of young players in your attacking third that don't have the experience in the Premier League. You also have some players that you don't know if you can rely on going forward that you just signed.
Right. Yeah, no, I get your point. You are right when you say we've got a young team, but that's the reason why we've actually brought Pochettino in, because he's actually got a proven record of developing young players. You know, that young team he had at Southampton, he got that job at Spurs, he developed Dele Alli, Harry Kane's world class because of him. You know, Eriksen was quite young. You had Alderweireld, who was quite young at the time. That's actually why we've brought him in, because the model now is to bring in young players and to develop them. And
so
you know,
how many more signings do you think you're going to bring in? Because I think in order for Chelsea to be competitive next season, you need to bring in a goalkeeper, a striker, an additional midfielder to Caicedo, in addition to Caicedo. So that's 4 players that will potentially walk into your starting 11.
Yeah, okay. I mean, in terms of bringing in replacements, Vega is someone that's been mentioned quite a lot of times. If we actually get rid of Mason, obviously that's happening now. So I think we're going to attack that situation once we sort out Caicedo. Vega is one that we're looking at. He looks quite creative. To be honest, I haven't watched a single 90 of him, but from what I've heard of him,
where does he play?
He's like a cam. He's like a 10, I believe. Vega. He's quite
Sociedad,
Sociedad. So
If I'm
apparently
not-
he's a good player.
Celta Vigo.
Celta Vigo.
yeah.
Celta Vigo. Apparently he's a good player that we're looking
Oh,
at.
Gabby Vega.
Yeah, Gabby Vega. So he's one. Man City have been looking at him the other day as well. That was an exclusive. You've got Lavia, who's still on our list. Apparently, we might be bringing him in as well as Casado. You've got Santos, who's here already. Poch is looking at him in pre-season. You've got Casadei, who was player of the season in the Under-20 World Cup, who might be looked at as well. There's options there in the background. And again, we're going to attack a lot of positions now, especially as of next week when we sort out Mason. When that gets wrapped up, you're gonna start to see a lot more rumors about incomings rather than outgoings, because we had to sort that out first. So I'm not panicking about it because I know what the plan is. I know that we want a striker. Goalkeeper, I'm a bit concerned because it sounds like we're looking to keep Kepa as a number one, which I don't agree with. I just think he's a horrible goalkeeper.
No, but you're agreeing with me because you're naming all the work that I just said you need to get done. So you agree with me. You have
I agree with you. But what I'm saying is
we're not over. But
yeah.
Right now, just looking at on paper, what the squad that you have right now, the players you've gotten rid of, going into next season, if you make 4 quality signings, yes, you can replace some of the players you got rid of, but by numbers wise, I feel like you've gotten rid of a lot of the experience and a lot of the quality in your team over the last couple of years. And getting rid of too many players too quickly can be as detrimental as bringing in too many players too quickly.
Yeah, but we can't complain about getting rid of these players that we wanted to get rid of. Do you know what I mean?
No, but you also couldn't complain about signing. You spent 600 million and you've seen the ramifications. You had a bloated squad. Now you got rid of all these players. Although it's good for the long term, in the short term, you're taking a big talent dip.
I get what you're saying. Let me jump in on this because I get what you're saying over here, but we can't criticize them for something that we said last season that they should have done, because we said their squad was too big. And now when they're thinning out their squad, we're saying the squad is too thin. We can't play both sides the same way. Now, we just have to be honest. Okay, I get what you're saying. They got rid of a lot of experience, but sometimes that's what you need, because I'm sorry, Gal, that's the same thing your manager did. Your manager came in, he made the squad so thin. He got rid of the most experienced players that you had, starting with Ozil and then Aubameyang and then Lacazette, and these guys were your most experienced. But then look at your team; it paid off. I'm not saying in a year they're going to be competing for the league. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But they're following something similar. I get your point, though, that they did it too quick, where they added a lot of players too quick, and now they're selling a lot of players too quick. They didn't really let it go at a slow pace where it's more natural. Couple players going, couple players coming in, doing it over 2-3 years. Yes, that ideally would be better.
It just seems very extreme. Let's be honest.
I get it, but that's the position they're already in because they already signed all these players. So instead of them having to play Ziyech and Pulisic and all these players again, because last season, I remember a lot of Chelsea fans were upset that towards the end of the season, a lot of the new signings still weren't playing. And they knew people like Ziyech was going. He was supposed to go to PSG, but yeah, he was starting games. So they're what's the point if he's going to leave in the summer? Now, you trimming down the squad, yeah, you might start the season a little bit slow because most of these players are outside of the Premier League. So most of them are getting their debuts, or most of them played about 6 months only in the Premier League. So they don't have that experience. But no European football gives them a big advantage because that's more time on the training pitch. And I always talk about this. People think playing more games is more important. Sometimes you need a break to be more on the training pitch with your manager, because you need to train on, okay, I'm a new manager, you guys are new players, this is what we're going to do. We need to practice time and time again before we go to games. And I feel like that's going to work in their favor because that's a lot of micromanaging to these young players. Mudryk now is going to get micromanaged a lot. Madueke, Enzo, Caicedo if he comes in Nkunku when he comes in. I mean, he's already in. But you get what I'm saying. A lot of these young players are going to get more attention, more time. And yeah, they're sacrificing the short term for the long term. But that long term doesn't necessarily mean next year in 2 years.
Your end conclusion is, Igal, you're overreacting, but I agree with you.
You're not totally wrong, but I do think you're being a little bit too harsh.
Okay, I'm not being harsh
in
the sense because I am trying to bring some balance to something that I'm seeing where everyone I feel like is saying Chelsea are doing great business. Yes, in selling they're doing great business, but overall they could land themselves in another issue. And sometimes what you think you're doing a great job can sometimes lead you to another issue. And I'm just pointing out that this could be an issue in the foreseeable future.